CST 2016. This is interviews, music reviews, and more. This is The Hodder Show.
What is up, everybody? We are rolling out of you here today on episode 389 of The Hodder Show. I hope you guys are doing absolutely fantastic. Thank you so very much for tuning in and clicking that play button on today's episode of the podcast. We got a kick-ass episode for you here today, as I try to have every single week right here on The Hodder Show. We're sitting down with Zachary Emmons from the mighty Pound of Flesh to talk all about his journey to Pound of Flesh, his love of music, where it comes from, his love of metal and where that comes from, how he got started in playing guitar. We also have a ton of gear talk, which is awesome for a guitar nerd like myself. We really dive into his gear and what he loves about the gear that he uses, his guitars and all that kind of fun thing, as well as some influences on him and some of the work that Pound of Flesh has done. So stay tuned for that. Really excited to jump into that conversation with Zachary. Before we jump into that, though, I need to give a quick shout out to everyone who supported last week's episode of the show, my Best of 2023 Music Showcase. Always a success whenever I do the best ofs, but got some really good feedback on that one. So thank you very much to everyone who checked it out and who gave the good feedback for kind of that new format where I batch the genres together. People said they really enjoyed that. So I'm glad that you did. And thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for all the support in 2023 to all the bands and musicians who were featured, and to those who were not featured. If you heard it and you were like, man, I want to be a part of this next year, hit me up. Let me know. I would love to have a chat with you. Just like today's chat with my man, Zachary Emmons from the mighty Pound of Flesh. Let's get into it. All right, guys, we're here with Zach Emmons from the mighty Pound of Flesh. Zach, brother, what's up, man? How you doing?
Oh, not too bad, buddy. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Happy to be talking to you here on this snowy but beautiful day here in the old right? Peterborough, Ontario. Dude, we have so much to talk about in regards to not only your personal career, but also, of course, Pound of Flesh, what you guys are up to. And just to start things off, I have to bring up recently when I saw you guys playing Lindsay.
Yeah.
At the Heavy Lindsay. I think it was just Heavy Lindsay.
Yeah, the Pied Monk there.
Yeah, dude. So did I tell you the story of why that was so significant for me?
No, you didn't.
Okay. So Pie-Eyed Monk, which is where they had the show, in the room that we were in, where the stage was, that was where the head table was for my wedding reception.
Oh, shit.
So where the mosh pit was our dance floor.
Okay.
And where you guys were just fucking destroying the room on stage was where I was sitting with my wife eating dinner at our wedding reception.
That's wicked.
So when I heard that was happening, I said to the wife, I'm like, we gotta go.
Yeah, we gotta go, right?
she's not a metal fan, I'm not gonna lie to you, but she actually dug everybody a lot. Like, she was like, this is actually pretty, even like Uncle Scurvy, she was like, what the hell is this? I was like, give it a second.
Yeah, no, there was some solid bands on that one. There was Vain Dues, Cadillac Blood, and Uncle Scurvy with us on that one.
Yeah, that was such a oh my, it was, and like the turnout was great.
Oh, big turnout.
Like, it was just like, and like the food there's so fucking good. Like, it was just,
right?
That was the first show I'd been to in a while that I was like, this feels like old times to me.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, this feels like 2011, 2010. Like, this is cool. Like, it was awesome. But that was the first time I got to see you guys. And like, I'd heard the songs, I had heard the record, but like, first off, how many guys are in your band, bro?
We got 6.
Okay.
So we got we do 2 rhythm guitars and then one lead down the middle. So we get like that stereo effect live, and then we've got our bass player, our vocalist, and our drummer.
Okay, because there was another dude who was like,
he was like doing like backup vocals and stuff, and he was hanging out.
I was like, that which was cool. Don't get me wrong, but I was like, is he in the band too? Like, what?
He came on tour with us, and like
that's cool.
We brought him on tour with us, and he was hanging out. Yeah. That's
cool. Kind of helped Shane out just in some moments, add a little bit of extra. It was just like this awesome. I was actually standing just behind the mosh pit trying to like do a quick little record because you guys started off with my favorite song. It's not Redneck Boogeyman. Good. No, yeah. No.
Crossroad Boogeyman.
Crossroad Boogeyman, excuse me. Yes.
Yeah.
Second I hear that, I was like, yo, it's gonna go with I said to the wife, like, okay, hang on, stay here. And I go and I'm like, oh, I'm far enough back from the mosh pit. And the second you guys kicked in, like I was holding my phone up and just all you see is just this mass come towards me in the video and my phone drop and I'm just like gone. I came out of mosh retirement for that is my point.
Yeah, that's one that definitely gets people moving for sure. Cause that like high, I feel like that high speed to it, just like that bump, a bump, a bump, a bump, a bump.
Yeah, that was such a great lineup, man. Like just that whole show.
That was a really fun show.
It was cool to see the homies. And yeah, like you what's so cool about you guys is like you very much have that like how would you define yourselves as far as like you say like you're like a hardcore band, but there's still very much that like
the new stuff that we're working on now is very much hardcore oriented. Like we told like the first record we were kind of taking influences from a few different areas. So like we were listening to like Maylene, a lot of Beartooth, and then we just kind of like almost like got back into our niche with the new stuff. We got comfortable. We're like, okay, like we're back to writing heavy again.
Yeah.
Like glimpses of that on the first record were songs like Wastemans and Facilitate.
Which is cool. Like it's just that I always dig when heavy bands have that kind of that twang. Like,
yeah,
the groove is cool, but like when you have that little bit of twang too, I don't know how else to explain it. It's like
well, the Telecaster, like using the baritone Telecasters helps a lot because of the single coil sound.
Mm-hmm.
So it gives you that like poppy sound for a lot of our stuff.
Yeah, you've got quite the setup guitar wise. Like I was telling you earlier, I was geeking out, just looking through your Facebook and geeking out over your setup. So let's just dive into that for a second, man, because I have to ask.
So the cab that I use is at our jam space right now. So live, I'm using a Mesa Rectifier 412 with V30s, and then I use a PVJSX 120 watt tube head, and my effect processor I use a Headrush MX5, the floor mount unit. And then just through that, like it varies on the guitars really, like whether I'm using my Squire baritone Telecaster 27-inch scale or my Charvel Joe Duplantier Sig. And either one, it's always Aurora Tone pickups through my endorsement with them.
There's some mighty guitars in that lineup, man, in the pickups. They sound fucking awesome.
Oh man, Aurora Tone. It's like I used to use bare knuckle a lot. And I came across Aurora Tone on Instagram one day, just kind of scrolling those like suggested for you posts when you go to like search. And I saw like these crazy looking pickups. And I clicked it. And I was like, oh, I wonder if they've got like sound samples of them. And I started listening to them. I was like, okay, like these sound insane. So I hit up the page. I was like, hey, like, do you ship to Canada? And he laughed. He's like, I'm from Nova Scotia. So yeah.
That's
and then
awesome.
I designed a set and had them shipped over. And then right away, we just kind of started talking a lot, me and Cody, the owner of Aurora Tone. And then from that, he was kind of like, yo, would you want to be an Aurora Tone artist and kind of like help me advertise for the brand? I was like, oh, 100%. I was like, literally, I used to do bare knuckle through and through, and I haven't looked back after going to Aurora Tone.
Yeah, they've got some wicked stuff, man. Like just I was actually looking at their page earlier. It's funny you bring it up. Like I was like, man, they got some cool stuff. And like,
yeah, they can do the glow in the dark bobbins. That's the one set that I've got on the Charvel. It's purple and green glow in the dark.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
I was geeking out over the guitar too, man. Like well, that's what I think that's like one of the first times we talked. I was like, dude, is that I can never pronounce his damn name, but I love
Joe Duplantier.
Joe Duplantier. I love Gojira so much.
Yeah.
And
it's got the Gojira logo even on the back of the headstock.
That's so cool. But like, that's what's cool about his signature from a lot of them is like, you'll see the guitar and it's like, oh, that's clearly this guy's guitar.
Yeah.
It's for his band. Like it has his name on it or whatever. Like, I like when they make it kind of, not vague, but like, you know what I mean? It's like, it looks like it could be just a regular model, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I love that guitar. Like it's the matte white finish, and it's just like I toured with that guitar in November with Tangents when we did the Ontario tour, and oh man, that guitar, I love that thing.
Is that a just to geek out on it for a second? Is that so? Are there two models of that one, or is there?
So they have the white one, and then they have the natural wood finish one that has a trem bar.
Oh yes, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Is there like a US version of that, or is that the?
I think there's a US version of it, and it has the black pick guard too.
Right. Okay. Yeah. I think the full white is way cooler. And
Yeah,
that's the
I
one
love
he
the white
uses
look with it.
too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it does have a so but that's interesting. So the US model has the Gojira logo in the fretboard.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. So that the mahogany
Oh, the
finish with the
mahogany
black
neck is
pick guard.
wicked,
Yeah, that thing's so cool, dude.
right?
I don't get to talk guitars a lot, so I'm just like geeking out over it, man. But excuse me, but that's so cool with the head that you use too, with that PV, the Joe Satriani model. Like,
Oh man, that's it's like you said earlier when we talked, right? It's such a like a stupidly underrated head, especially with like in the day and age of like EVH with the 5150 series. It gets like the JSX gets overlooked a lot, and it's like, man, that shit like that amp still to this day, it's like it's hard for me to top that one.
it's such a, and that's why like when I saw it, I was like, what? Like I literally haven't seen one of those in like 10 years. And
Right?
they're such good amps, man.
I was at a show at Urban actually about a month ago, and there was a guy there that was using one, and I was like, "No way!"
That's wild.
He's like, "Yeah, I've had this amp for a while." I was like, "No, I'm freaking out because I have one."
Oh, that's so cool. Urban's a real, that's a pretty cool place to play. I saw,
I love Urban.
yeah, that
Yeah,
same weekend.
Belinda, the owner there, she treats us so good there. She's honestly like the music scene in Peterborough would be so much worse off without Urban and Belinda.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, especially now, like with losing the Red Dog, it's like,
Oh yeah,
there's got to be
for
places
real.
for people to play. So like Urban,
She works so hard for the music scene here, not like and not just in one genre, like all genres. She welcomes it to the Urban. She's like, hey, like she does it for the scene. And it's so nice to see a venue owner that cares that much.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. It's a cool place for sure. Like you walk in, you go to the back, behind the bar, and there's this big. It's like, this is a really cool venue. I saw Seagrave there the same weekend. I saw you guys.
I even told Tangents, but when we were booked there, and they were like, "What is this place like? It looks really small in the front." It's like, no, load your gear in and go right to the back. And then when we start loading in, they're like, "Oh shit, this is wicked."
Yeah, when I walked in there, I was kind of like, oh, okay, and then I go to the back, and I'm like, holy shit, this is a big place. Like,
right? Yeah.
There's been some pretty serious motion happening back here. Okay.
Oh yeah, you can get a serious amount of people in that place.
Yeah, it's cool. It's definitely a cool venue for sure. But talking about guitars and stuff like that, let's go back for a minute with you, man. How did this whole musical journey start for you? What was some of the first music you ever heard? What got you into wanting to play?
So I always laugh because it's like I have such different like influences from like a traditional like hardcore guitarist. Like literally what got me into guitar was Motley Crue. Like right away, my dad was a huge Motley Crue fan growing up, and he was on like Aerosmith, Motley Crue, Guns N' Roses, all that kind of stuff. And then like I just kind of found my own liking of that stuff, and I picked up a guitar when I was like 9 years old. And it was like I grabbed my acoustic guitar and go into a guitar lesson at Bud's Music in Peterborough. And I'm like, I want to learn to play Kickstart My Heart. And the guy laughs. And he goes, well, you're going to need an electric and a whammy bar first.
Mick Mars, man, he had the riffs, bro.
Right, for real. And it was like, man, that's what got me like going on guitar. And then it was more around like the end of high school. Me and Shane started hanging out, and Lindsay, and he needed a guitarist for his old band Empire of Tomorrow. And then that's where I was like my first time going from like drop C to drop A.
Just going down.
Literally, and like that was it for me from there. I was like 7 strings, drop A, drop F, play.
Yeah, but you don't go down to full. What is it? What are Seagrave played in now? Like E standard, but it's a full.
Yeah.
It's just ridiculous.
I was gonna say that weren't they using the bass for the guitar tracks on their new
something
recording?
like that? Yeah, I think he uses the Digitech drop pedal, so it's
we're using the Ricochet pedal a lot in our new stuff.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's cool you can do that though. You don't have to just like shout out to the boys in Seagrave, but yeah, no, that's awesome.
I love those guys.
It's crazy when you go from like. Like especially like with your background, like kind of being like the 80s hair metal, so to speak.
Yeah.
Where it's like, this song's in drop D. It's like, oh shit, man, this is heavy. Then,
right?
And then you discover drop C.
Around the time I started hanging out with Shane, then I started like Shane introduced me to like a lot of like because I had already been into like a bit of like Children of Bodom and Lamb of God through high school. And then like Shane kind of like showed me beyond that, and he was like, oh, here's Whitechapel and like all this. And I was like, yo, what? I remember the first time I heard Whitechapel, I was like, what the fuck is this?
First time you hear Whitechapel, you're like, what the fuck? That's either really early stuff.
This is it.
Yeah. That would have been the really early stuff too. Like that stuff.
Yeah, it was like Possession and then like like Somatic Defilement. Yeah.
just ridiculous. Like I love their
yeah.
newer stuff too. Like it's a little more
Yeah,
my speed, but like
Yeah, I like how the Whitechapel over the years has been one of those bands that evolved. Like
Mhm.
they evolved with the way the scene was going at that time.
Yeah,
Like they
didn't
weren't
just
like a band like, for instance, like an example like Amir, where like Amir has been the same since 2008. When you get an Amir album, you know what you're getting with Amir. Like,
yeah, at least like it's like it's the same thing with like I'm a big Hatebreed fan, right? And like
oh, I
over the
love Hatebreed.
over the years, a lot of people have been like, well, like they're the same band they were like 20 years ago, and I'm like, but if you really listen to what they're doing,
Yeah,
there are a lot of there are a lot of subtle differences. But I'm
yeah.
just waiting for the day that Josta finally like has like a clean on like a Hatebreed record because like it's coming.
Right? Oh
Because
yeah,
he's
it's
done it
coming.
on his solo shit. So I'm like, dude, like, and he has a cool voice, so it's like
It's
pull the
like
trigger.
that's like when I think like I always say it to Shane, like whenever I think like tough guy hardcore, it's always Hatebreed.
Dude,
That
I'll like
like those
fight people over
vocals are like a
Hatebreed.
staple in hardcore music.
Yeah. Any metalhead or hardcore guy I talk to, it's always like, no, I've never heard anyone say, yeah, Hatebreed's okay. Well, hey,
Right? It's like
everyone's
Hatebreed,
like, you don't give a
Hatebreed
shit.
fucks.
Hatebreed fucks, bro. I love that. Yo, Hatebreed fucking, they fuck, bro. Like, how can you not, like, if you hear, like, I Will Be Heard for the first time, you're just like, now I'm a hardcore kid. Cool. Like,
years ago, me and Shane, years ago in a different band, we had a cover of This Is Now.
that's awesome. That's not, I think that's the track for me, I think. I love
Yeah, it's a good one.
I love it.
That guitar is so
like,
catchy.
yeah. And like, what's so wild about that is like, you hear like, Josh like, yeah, I wrote that riff on an acoustic guitar. It's like, what? What? It's fucking wild, dude.
Right?
That's wild.
No, it's fun. It's so funny to see just the way the genre itself has evolved over the years, and like what baffles me now is just the way that like, you've seen metal exploding again, like it did in like the early 2010s. So
Mhm.
like with TikTok and stuff, it's almost like metal's like got that like full steam ahead again.
Which is cool because like there are some bands that like as much as people like to shit on certain bands, it's like I'm very much like the bands that really got me into metal were, I mean, like I'm gonna get roasted for saying this, but I don't care because it's true. One of the bands that got me into like Lamb of God and all that stuff, because I never was a fan of it in high school. It wasn't until afterwards that I got into that. Was actually Five Finger Death Punch, and like a lot of people, I'm like, listen. If you hear Ivan Moody sing and then go from his singing voice to like his like heavy screaming, you don't think that's wicked? I don't know what to tell you. You don't like the lyrics and stuff, range. That's fine. But like,
it's crazy range. Like I know for Shane, like his two big influences right now on vocals are Caleb Shomo and Alex Terrible. That's like two polar opposites, right? Like,
and he's got such a wicked voice too on him, man. Like I like, and like when you hear like compare it to when you hear things on a record compared to live, it's always like, how is this gonna be, right?
Yeah.
And with Shane, I was like, okay, like let's, and it was like, oh, this guy's just as absolutely brutal on as he is on the record.
Like, he's put the hours into vocals. Like I remember years ago when he was getting into it, that man was like locking himself away in a studio for like 9 hours a day. You wouldn't hear from Shane for like 2 weeks, and suddenly he's like, "Oh, I can guttural now." Like, okay.
He's working on his metal education, bro.
Literally, like everybody was out going to the bar, and Shane was practicing his vocals and guitar.
That's so cool, man. I dig that though. It's so for you when you like go to Bud's Music, start taking guitar lessons and that. When did the transition happen for you when you're like kind of just playing for fun to like, hey, I'm going to start joining bands? Was that around the time you and Shane?
It would have been, I linked up with a drummer at the end of high school, and we kind of had like a little jamming project. Funny enough, the drummer of Burning Bridges now.
Oh, okay.
Was the guy that was the first drummer that I ever really jammed with, Phil. And we had like a little tiny project in high school that we kind of played around with, but it never really did anything. And then I ended up renting a room off Dan Greer.
Okay.
Like way back in Lindsay when he was throwing shows in his basement, and I rented a room at his house. And then that's kind of when I like submersed myself in the music scene because I was constantly around it. Whether it was like just bands come over to jam, like shows happening at the house, just naturally it was like, okay, like I'm gonna see like what like how I fit into this now. And it was like I started ripping guitar, and then it was like next thing you know, me and Shane are jamming. Years go by, we've been in like I think with Shane alone, I've been in like 5 bands with him. Because funny enough, like the guys that like I always joke with the guys in Seagrave. Me and Shane's the way the Pound of Flesh originally started was we used to be a band called Seagrave.
Really, that's hilarious.
Yeah, years and years ago, we put out an album called Flashbacks. We toured around Ontario and Quebec with like My Dear Dilemma and stuff. We were only like a thing for like 6 months or so. But that's why I always joke with the guys from Seagrave. I was like, oh, I was in a band called Seagrave once.
We're the OG Seagrave, bro.
I
We were
joked around,
heavier,
like,
bro.
I've shown like a couple people like, yeah, like this is like what we used to do with it, and like guys that know Seagrave joke with them too about it, being like, yeah, like we like Vince from Covert Records used to play shows with us.
That's hilarious. And it's just like,
Yeah.
we were the OG, bro.
I always laugh about it. I was like, it's funny to see because it's like I always joke because Seagrave became heir to the throne, and then heir to the throne became Pound of Flesh. And it's like the one when we had Seagrave and Pound of Flesh on one poster, Shane kept joking, being like, we should just do an heir to the throne cover set to have all three names on one poster.
I love it. I love stuff like that. Band names and stuff are so fun to me because like
Right?
there's some killer ones, and then it's like,
Yeah.
you know, what's like the worst one you guys had, or the best one depending on your point of view.
So the one of the bands that me and Shane were in years ago, it was a pop punk band. Shane drummed and I played guitar. They were like like we pulled like decent locally for shows, but the band was called Mechno Toad.
I remember Mechnotone. Okay.
Yeah.
I remember
Yeah.
hearing about you guys. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's not bad. Some people, it's like, yeah, we were called like the Eternal Mystical Flame. It's like, okay, bro, that's pretty. There's some I've heard over the years, dude, that I'm like.
Yeah, like me and Shane, we had Empire of Tomorrow. We were in Mechno Toad. We had Seagrave, Heir to the Throne, and now Pound of Flesh.
Which Pound of Flesh is pretty hard, man.
We got that name from. Do you remember the movie The Gentleman?
Yes.
With Matthew McConaughey. So we got it from the scene where he was like, you know, I don't care about the money, but somebody's hit my wife, and for that, I'm gonna want a pound of flesh.
Yeah, I figured it's probably came from the saying of like, I'm gonna get my pound of flesh.
Yeah, it's like a symbol of retribution dating back to Shakespeare.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's so cool. I dig that. Well, what's funny is like I think it was. I was talking, I did a retrospective on the show lately for like 2023 or whatever. And I was talking with my buddy who was not a metal fan at all. And I was mentioning two bands, and he couldn't help but chuckle because he's like, seriously? It's like I mentioned Pound of Flesh, and he was like, Pound of Flesh, holy crap, like us. And then I mentioned Flesh Guzzler. Shouts to Adam.
Yeah,
he was like,
we actually have
Guzzler?
something. It's an unannounced show, but we're playing a show with Flesh Guzzler and the end of March in Hamilton.
Nice.
That show's getting announced on Monday.
Ooh, okay, so this will be out by then. Sorry, that'll be announced before this is out at this point. But yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, Adam's great.
Yeah.
I had him on the show recently. He's a great dude, and Pound of Flesh
he's really cool. He came to our show in
gnarly.
Hamilton. He asked us if we wanted to play a show with him in at the Doors, and really nice dude. I really liked him, and like I checked out some of his stuff. He's really talented.
Yeah, it's like for me now at this point in my life, like I'm getting really heavily into like horror voice acting and stuff. So like anytime I hear like a vocalist who can just do the gnarliest stuff, I'm always like, dude, like what are you, how are you doing this? And then like he uploaded those videos around Christmas of him like recording for it. And I'm like, how are you making those noises out of your throat? Like what, like it just, heavy singing in general trips me out. But like when it's like that, I'm like, how are you doing that? And then he's just like, hey guys, anyway, so I'm like, what the fuck? It blows my mind, man.
Right?
Yeah, that's gonna be a ridiculous show, man. Hamilton, Flesh Guzzler, Pound of Flesh. Who did you say who else was playing?
Deafened is on it, and I can't. I think that is it.
Okay, that's
I think
either
there
way.
might be one more. Yeah, there might be one more band on there.
That's gonna be a ridiculous show.
But it's at the Doors pub. That one's at the end. Because it'll be announced for this time. This comes out. It's March 30th. That one's happening.
Cool. So March 30th, folk, mark your calendars. That's gonna be.
We got
mark your calendars.
We got a run in March that we're actually doing. So we're going to be announcing that soon.
Cool. Okay. And you're gonna be going all over the place, or kind of?
We're gonna be going all the way to Montreal.
Ooh. Okay.
Yeah.
City of Montreal, getting ready to get their pound
going
of flesh
to the
on.
land of the French. We're gonna see what happens when you take 5 guys that don't speak French and put them in Quebec.
Probably a good idea. Probably
Big
the
sick
best
dudes,
idea.
you know. None of us speak French. Let's see what happens.
It's a bunch of good old boys from the Kawarthas and just, well, are you all from around here? Or I say the Kawarthas, but
Yeah, so we got our bass players Zach and Shane and Dylan all live around like the Lindsay Omimi area.
Okay.
Max, our lead guitar player, he lives right in Lindsay.
Yes, I know Max. Yeah.
Sorry, right in Omimi, sorry. And then me and Brady, the drummer, we both live in Peterborough.
Right.
And then Zach, I think he's moving short. Like I think he's saying that he might be moving into Peterborough soon. So
cool. Okay.
basically, be like half in Lindsay, half in Peterborough.
Which is that's still close enough that you guys can can jam out. Yeah. Shout outs to Max. He has the General, which was that old LTD.
Oh yeah. Yeah, Max, he still has that thing. He still sends me pictures whenever I bring you up. He's just like, there's his guitar.
Yeah, that's so the coolest thing about that, man, was when he bought that guitar from me. Because actually a guy who was playing with him at the time, a drummer, he told me that he was looking for one and he saw I was selling it. Yeah. And I was like, I would much rather someone buy this who's going to like use it on stage and shit. Or just at least really play it. Because I'm like, this thing can't just sit collect dust anymore. It was breaking my heart. Right. But when we were like doing the exchange, for some reason, for the first time in like 15 years, I poked myself in the finger with this end of the string. Yeah. I don't know how I did it. And I was bleeding like all over the guitar. And I was like, oh my God, dude, I'm so sorry. And he was like, oh, it's all good, man. I'll get blood out eventually. Like, I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. That's pretty metal.
There was one point while we were on tour, Max, we're like on tour and his vacation time's up and he's like, shit, we got 3 more days left. I guess we got to call into work today. Right. We're in like Windsor. And he's gosh. So he calls into his work. And as he's calling into his work, I'm scrolling Instagram. There's this video that somebody posted on Instagram, and it's Max at the show the night before on his knees on stage ripping a solo. And Shane starts laughing. He goes, do any of your coworkers follow you on like Instagram? Max is like, yeah, why? Shane's like, all they need to do to disprove you being sick is go on Instagram and see you in Windsor, Ontario on your knees shredding a solo last night.
Yeah, it's like, what do you do, right? It's just like, listen, man, I gotta rip a show here, dude. What do you do? That's cool though.
That was a fun tour, honestly.
I was just about to ask, how was that? Was that the first tour that you guys had been on as this
first
version
tour
of Pound of Flesh?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, couldn't have asked for a better band to tour with than Tangents. Those guys are hilarious. They are such a good group of dudes. Very, very talented band. Like super fun music. Like they joke and call it like mathcore, but it's like it's funny because it's like Will always says, he's like, I just like to make weird music, and I'm like, hey, I love it. It's like they have so many aspects of different, like you can see all of their influences in their sound, and it's such a unique sounding band.
Yeah, they're awesome. I haven't had the chance to have them on. There's so many bands that like I've always like admired from afar, if that makes sense. Yeah. And like I just haven't gotten to them yet. And it's like they're one. There's so many bands that like, dude, like I need to get on the show.
Very, very talented group of dudes there. They're we're in talks about trying to book something together again.
There was something with I think it was you guys. There was something to do with them and like a jar of
the pickled turnips.
What was the deal with that? I had to ask.
Okay. So Cody from Tangents brought a jar of pickled turnips on tour, saying that he was gonna make pickled turnip martinis with it.
Which is pretty cool.
And the first show, somebody at the crowd in Toronto on the first day of tour yelled, "Take a sip," while he put it on stage. So then it just became a thing of like everybody's got to take a sip out of the jar sometime during the show. And at the Peterborough show, some kid thought that like when he was like, yeah, here, take it. The kid thought it meant like take the jar, not take a sip. And the kid ran off the jar. Fortunately enough, our guitarist Dylan, his girlfriend knew who the kid was and got a hold of him. And she's like, hey, there's like a witch hunt for this jar of turnips right now. Like she was like, you got to go on the internet and maybe get a hold of these guys.
And the turnips were returned. That's the main takeaway.
Oh yeah, no, it's funny that because then he made a TikTok explaining like his side of the scenario, and it got to like right now it's at like 1.3 million views.
Holy shit!
Yeah.
Nothing like
Yeah,
just
shout out to him.
guitar
He's like
tune-ups.
he was a good one. You know, he was a cool sport about it. Like when we got a hold of, I gave him a free pound of flesh shirt. You know, he's got a tangent shirt there too.
Yeah, I'm looking at
And
the
like if he
picture
gets
right now. The
like
return of the
I'm trying to work
turnips.
at a date to get a hold of him again because I'm trying to still give him the actual jar. We still have it.
That's so cool. Yeah, that'd be cool.
At the last day of tour, we all took both bands took a picture with it and signed it for him.
That's cool as hell, man.
Yeah,
I love stuff like that. Just the little stories from tour, right? Like,
right. That's what we joked. We were just like because I was joking on the way down after we got the jar. We were going to the London show right after, and on our way down there, I remember looking at Zach, our bass player. I was like, imagine if this story going viral makes a bunch of people turn up at our London show. And it was our first time playing London as Pound of Flesh, and like the place was packed. And we're asking, we're like, "Whoa, where did you hear about us?" And they're like, "TikTok. Where's the turnip jar?"
yeah, where's the turnip jar, bro?
We're like, "Oh, it's over here."
Everyone needs a gimmick,
We
man.
started joking, saying that we were gonna that part of the merch table was gonna be $2 photos with the jar.
You know what's hilarious? I bet you people would pay it to take a picture with
People
that
would
jar.
probably still pay it, right?
Probably still pay it. Like, yo, only $2 to take a picture with the jar? Hell yeah. That is
All
utterly
money
ridiculous.
feeds the band.
Oh man. So what was it like with you? So like I'm assuming you guys were all like just like piled in a van and like how was
Yeah,
that?
it was fun. We
Yeah.
basically just like for sleeping, we just did hotels and like
Nice.
Airbnbs and hotels, which was like so it kind of lived up to the name, like the Airbnb breakdown tour.
Yeah.
Because we were just like we were all like, oh, we're too old to like crash in a van and stuff anymore. We need a bed.
Yeah, once you get past like 30, it's like, all right, let's or even for some people like 25, it's like, yeah, let's
Literally,
just,
like Max is the youngest one in our band. He's 23. And Shane's the oldest one in the band. He just turned 35.
right. So yeah, you're all kind of in that. Yeah. That's like me too. I'm 32 and I'm like, dude, I couldn't imagine.
That's how old I am too, right?
Yeah,
I'm 32.
I could not imagine sleeping in a van.
Man.
Like,
Oh, dude, at this age, when I got back, I remember looking at my wife after like 2 days back from tour, and I was like, all the headbanging and stuff, I couldn't turn my head. I was like, this is why I stopped doing this.
you gotta go see a chiropractor. Yeah, man.
It was like once you have that break in there, it's just like if you're not doing it consistently every day, you have that 1 day break, and then you just wake up dying.
yeah, that happened. Like again, that weekend where I saw you guys, and then I saw Seagrave the next night. Like,
Yeah.
I went to go see my chiropractor that week, and like he was like, "Hey, your neck's kind of messed up. Like, what's going on?" I was like, "Yeah, had the headbang, bro."
Literally. And it was funny for me because the first Pound of Flesh show was my first show in 8 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so it was so for me it was like all the headbanging and stuff. Then like for me, like having gone so long not playing, the next day I was like I felt like I was 85.
So with that break, was that just like I know you've got a family and stuff? Was that just like
so
taking a
during
break
that
for
break,
family?
like after Seagrave split, and we started Heir to the Throne, I ended up leaving Heir to the Throne before the first show, and I kind of just focused on like going to college, just like saving money and just basically getting ducks in a row that way in my own life, and I mean, it was about a year and a half ago now. Shane, like we'd always like stayed in touch, like because we were always like close friends. And he hit me up about a year and a half ago and was like, "Hey, I have an idea that's crazy enough to just work, and I want to know if you're down." And I was like, "What is it?" And he goes, "I'm putting banjo in metal." And I was like, "The fuck are you talking about?" And then he sends me a demo version of Crossroad Boogeyman. And I was like, all right, this is crazy enough to work. So then we got together and we kind of jammed and felt it out. We were like, no, like we started coming up with more riffs, and we were like, no, this is starting to work. Like let's run with it and see what we get. And I had known Zach, our bass player, through working at KFC and knew that he played bass. And I just hit him up. I was like, hey, what are you doing musically these days? Because he had used to play in a punk band called Waste Youth. And I was like, what are you doing these days? He's like, nothing band-wise. He's like, I'm just doing like session work for a couple people, but that's it. And I was like, what do you think of this? And I sent him the same thing that Shane sent me. And he's like, hey, this is sick. And I was like, come over and jam it with me. And then from there, just kind of we threw the lineup together, and it just kind of fell into place really it almost seemed too good to be true the way it like fell into place perfectly.
So was it like that's an awesome story, just on the origins of the band. I'm gonna put banjo and metal. It's like, what?
It was literally just like my wife has a video on her phone somewhere, and like me and Shane were stoned as hell, like FaceTiming her from his house, and she was just like, she's like, "What are you guys working on?" And Shane's like high as hell on edibles, picks up a banjo and starts playing. She goes, "The fuck are you guys doing?" And then I start playing it. He's like, "We put a banjo in G sharp."
So is that like I've seen the picture. Is that like that 6-string banjo guitar he has? Or is it like a full banjo? Okay, cool. That's even cooler to me.
It's the 6-string like banjo guitar, and we just put guitar strings on it and tuned it to drop G sharp.
It's ridiculous, but I mean, like,
it's got a
it's
piezo
so
pickup,
cool.
and that's how we recorded all the banjo on the first record.
That's awesome.
Like even Facilitate, the heavier one, we filled out the dead airspace by playing the hardcore riff on banjo underneath it.
It definitely makes for a very unique sound, which is so cool. When you guys were really putting the band together, was it something that you were like, we need 3 guitar players, or did that just kind of happen?
So we did it with 2 guitar players at first, but we were trying since the start of the band to get Max, but Max was playing lead in Burning Bridges at the time, and but like underneath it all, me and Shane, we really from the start wanted Max involved. Because we had played with Max in Heir to the Throne, and like when Max was like 15, we were jamming with him, like kind of showing him like hardcore and stuff like that when he was like when he was younger. And so like we always wanted him as a part of it, but he was always busy with Burning Bridges. And then he left that band and was just kind of doing his own thing for a little bit. And at the same time that happened, our original guitarist with me, Cody, he ended up having some family things come up that he wasn't able to do it anymore. And like shout out to Cody, like we still love him. Like he did our album cover and our music video editing.
That I just have to say real quick, that album cover, awesome.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
Cool.
He'll Cody Yvonne. He'll do artwork for anybody that wants it. Really good, really good guy. Exceptional artist too. But so then Cody, he ended up having to leave, and that's around the same time we were just like, I said to Shane, is like, Max isn't doing anything right now. Let's see what's going on with that. And we were at the same time bringing Dylan in as another rhythm guitarist, because our experience from the first show was when Cody started to do the leads, it was almost like some of the power would drop off in the sound. And I said to Shane, it's like, why would we not structure it like we do on a live on the recordings, where you have a rhythm guitar in your right and your left, and you put your leads down the middle? I was like, why would we not do that live if we want to replicate our record live? So then I said, like, we've got Dylan that's kind of learned, like in turn with Zach, like hanging out with Zach, learned all of our set. And I was like, and with Max, like we can just teach Max Cody's parts, and me and Dylan will mimic each other's parts. And that way we can like utilize like live, like the stereo effect for like left, rights and stuff.
Which is so cool. As a fan of just like rhythm, I've always just been a rhythm guy, right? That's why I think drew me to your playing so much, is I'm like, here's a guy who like got the riffs and stuff, but also like you really watching you play live, especially, I'm okay, this guy gets metal rhythm guitar. Like you're very much like you're a performer, clearly, like you've been doing this for years, and you're a great player, obviously, goes without saying.
Thank
but
you.
Like it's like when you need to kind of like step back, if that makes sense. Like you're really what's driving what's happening, while still you guys have that stereo sound. And like I'm listening to you guys and I'm like, your tones are very different, but like they work so well together. When you have 2 rhythm guitar players, like it's so necessary.
So like what we're doing with the rhythms is like, so I have my JSX and head rush, and Dylan has a head rush as well. He has he has copies of my head rush patches, and we effect loop it. And the difference is I have the JSX, he has the 5150. And then for leads, Max uses a dual rec.
Which that tone as soon as you hear it. I knew
right?
That was a
like
dual
the dual rec sound right when it comes through. Like
as soon as I heard it, I was like, that's a dual rec right there.
Yeah, right away. Because I remember saying to Shane, I was like, if we're bringing Max in, like Max has gear, right? And then and then he's like, yeah, Max will be here in a second. He's got an amp head. Max walks in with a dual rack and his LTD. I'm like, all right, yeah, he's good.
We're gonna be all right. Yeah, you can't beat that dual rec tone, man. You can't.
Oh,
beat
buddy,
it.
it's so sick.
Especially for lead. It's a very underrated lead amp.
So he's using so for his effects, he's using a Helix. Yeah, he's got the Line 6 Helix, and then he effect loops that with his dual rec, and then he's got that coming out Mesa Cab as well.
That's awesome. How did it feel when you guys had that first jam with like the full lineup you have now?
The
How was
first
that?
jam with the 3 guitars, it was like I joked with Shane. I was like, it was almost like that moment in, like the Dirt with Motley Crue, where you're just like, oh fuck, this is it. Because it was like right away, like we're jamming, and like Shane was even saying, he's like, we didn't lose that power when Max goes into the leads. Like, if anything, like when there's no leads, like we have like more power, but Max is like kind of doing like higher octaves with it, so it's not so much just like one riff. Max kind of offsets it by doing octaves on a lot of stuff. So even on Redneck Sinatra, or me and Dylan would be hanging out around like the 5th and 8th fret, Max is doing the same thing but on the octave up.
I was just about to say that I noticed anytime Max kicked into the main riff, I'm like, there's a little more going on here than just 3 guitar players playing the exact same thing. Because that's it. Once you get 3, it's like, okay, let's that's just a wall of noise. That was a big thing when
we were doing the album and doing production with the album, right? It was just like we were like, how do we make it where we're utilizing 3 guitars and not just you could do it with 2? How are we like, so that's why we're like, okay, we had the left rights, we have like the stereo image live now, and it's like it just creates that fuller sound.
Definitely. And with Max playing the harmony riff too, like it's just the octave riff, it's so, and then you've got everything else going on. It's when you first hear you guys live and see you guys live, it's a lot at first. Like I'm like, okay, there's 3 guitars, there's okay, all right, and then like once you kick into it, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. Like I got it. I get what you guys are putting down.
That's even we said to a couple people in Toronto when they saw us setting up, and like the sound guys like, oh, 3 guitars, like what are you doing? And we're like, you'll see. Just mic it up. You will see.
Yeah, because if it was just 3 of you playing the exact same thing, it's like that's just like that's just wall of
like,
noise.
Even in the
bro.
new stuff, like we're utilizing like where we'll do like the ricochet. We're doing that with left rights now, so that we're utilizing it still that way. Max has like harmonies underneath, and like he's doing a lot of like lo-fi parts now too. So for like the new like heavier hardcore sound, like Max is gonna have like where he's gonna kick into a lo-fi tone over a breakdown now kind of thing.
That's awesome. Just any little things to just make it that those subtle differences in the tonality to just bring everything together more.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, like
awesome.
That's our goal is like we use backtracks live, but our goal is to lean on them as little as possible, and we more so just use them for like eerie synth effects in the background.
Which I think that's acceptable. That's like, I dig when bands do that, because also like it's not the easiest thing in the world when you're like, okay, we got to keep in time because
and like we play to a click track, right? So it's just like it's like one screw up could ruin the whole set. Because like when we don't even have it like each song in an individual pad, like with our click track, it's like you go and you have to go through it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that's one thing where it's like we called it like boot camp when we were getting ready for tour, right? Because it was just like if you screwed up, it's start again. You could be 4 songs deep into a 7-song set, and we had to start again if we screwed up.
So I have to ask them, were there any screw ups on the tour, or everything went well?
There was one on tour actually in Peterborough. We messed up on the song Catalyst,
especially in Peterborough.
We came back out seriously? Of it fine.
Okay, that's good at least. Didn't just like, derail the whole show.
We watched the video, and it's like it's like nobody noticed, but we noticed.
Yeah, those are the best though. You just look at it, it's like, what are you doing? Like, come on.
Yeah. There's the one part where it's like me and Zach are looking at each other, like, what's going on? And then Brady just does the drum fill, and I'm like, okay, we're good.
All right, we're gonna just keep going. That's awesome. So with the first record, I got to ask, do you have like a favorite tune on that first record you really love to play live?
So Catalyst was one that I wrote myself. My favorite one to play though is probably Wasteman's. Because I'm all about that like greasy heavy. So I'm just like that opening riff and like the I was like, right when I heard that one the first time, I was like, no, this is heavy.
Yeah, it's not quite as it's a different type of heavy.
Yeah.
right? Like there's a little more that's more like my speed of a riff too. Like I like just the very much the caveman riffs. That's more
Yeah.
my shit. So like I dig that tune. That's awesome.
Yeah,
But
we have stuff like that a lot of like a few of those actually in the new stuff.
nice. That's
Yeah, like
exciting.
we
Well,
were playing in
talking
G
about
sharp before, and now we're going into drop F.
just insane, dude. Just crazy, but I dig it. Well, talking on the new stuff, you guys announced a couple of weeks ago at this point now, as people are hearing this, that you guys have a new single coming February 9th,
Yes.
Black Mirror.
Yeah, it's the first of our new sound. So we've noticed over the last year that we were getting a lot of we were getting a lot of love from the metal community, and like shout outs to guys like Sown, Seagrave, Pro Sector. We've noticed that this is the bands that we share the same kind of drive with, and bands that we were getting along with very well and getting a lot of love from. And we noticed that even that scene in particular was one that we were getting a lot of attention in. So we were more catering to that audience now. We're like, okay, like if you guys like what we can do, like we can do this too. And
Which
like
is
live
awesome.
people, we got good response from things like Wastemans and Facilitate. So we were like, why would we not kind of lean into that a bit more, especially with getting shows like Cryptopsy, for instance.
Nice. While still, I'm assuming keeping that core.
Yeah, like
you're still keeping the
we're still
banjo.
keeping that, like where we have like that twangy sound. Like it's gonna sound heavier. It's in drop F, but we're still the same guys, and we're still playing on Telecasters.
Which is so cool. Man. That's so awesome. You're gonna bust out that single coil Telecaster live more,
I
or
am.
what's the deal?
That's the one that's the one that's being used on the new stuff.
Nice. Is that stock or what do you have?
Aurora tone pickups.
Okay, cool. That's what I figured.
Yeah, everything's Aurora tone with us. All three guitarists have the same endorsement through them. So anything you hear from us guitar wise is all through Aurora tone.
Nice. Yeah, that's a cool sound, especially when you're tuning low. It's so easy to get that muddy low sound.
Yeah.
So it's super
his
clear.
pickups are really, really tight response, really dynamic pickups.
That's awesome. What are you most excited for with these batch of new songs? Is there like a song specifically you're like really excited for?
So it's one that we're working on right now, called Purge. And
just the name alone.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Like it might be the heaviest song that we've ever like done. like not even including this band. It's
wow,
like it's
okay.
Yeah, it's like it's really two-steppy, and it's just really, really aggressive.
I'm for it. I mean, with a song like Purge, I mean, you gotta bring it, man. You gotta bring it for sure.
Oh yeah, it's gonna set that tone for sure. It's what we're gonna be opening the set with on February 16th.
Nice. Yeah, that's gonna be a wicked show again, folks. That's gonna be at Urban with who you guys. What's the two of you guys got coming up? That's with. I know that Seagrave's playing with you guys here in Peterborough,
so
but
the tour is with it's us headlining with Crimson Asphalt supporting us.
Right.
We're playing Urban with Uncle Scurvy, Crimson Asphalt, Seagrave, and us on February 16th. And then February 17th, we're in Toronto with at Duffy's Tavern with Cozen, ODE, Crimson Asphalt, and us. And then we're the next night, the 18th, we're at the Richmond Tavern in London. And we're playing with Blackwater and Hevel and Crimson Asphalt again.
Nice. That's awesome. That's going to be a great freaking tour for sure.
Oh yeah, London's always a fun city to play too. I always London was one of the cities that was like I said, like they turned up pretty good in London, and it was a good time. So I'm really excited to get back into London there.
That's awesome, man. I love it. Just going back for a second, earlier we were talking a little bit about kind of what got you into playing music and that, and you mentioned a few players in there. Are there any specific guitar players that like really influence you now today?
As far as like beginning stages, definitely Mick Mars, Eddie Van Halen, and Randy Rhoads. Those were like my big three. Even like Zach Wild stuff, I couldn't get into it. It was always those like classic like big three there for me. As things went on, I got really into like Mark Morton, Lamb of God stuff, and then I had a stage where I was like all about Avenged Sevenfold for like 3 years. So I was like all about Sinister Gates.
It's funny you mentioned Mark Morton because I see and hear a lot of his style in you.
Yeah,
which is interesting. It's interesting that you're mentioning all lead players and you're a rhythm guy.
I know,
That's
right?
interesting. You play rhythm like a lead player, so that's what's so interesting to me about it. It's hard to explain, but hopefully you know what I mean when I say that.
Oh,
Like
I
you're
do.
very much, yeah.
Then anymore, it's hard to say for for like modern day guys anymore, really. Because like for me, like I listen to like a lot of like I listen to a lot of heavier stuff nowadays, and it's funny because my like little 2-year-old daughter, her favorite thing in the world is Slaughter to Prevail.
I dig that.
Right? Like she'll get up in the morning and yell at the Google saying that she wants the Google to play the Roar Roar song, and it's Viking.
Play the Roar Roar song. That's awesome.
Right? And it's like, but that's like that's mainly the guitar influence I take now would be like anything from like Slaughter to Prevail kind of stuff. That where it's like those like heavy like throw it like even like Alpha Wolf to an extent too.
That's wicked. Yeah, that all that stuff's just like there's so much cool stuff happening right now. Have you ever heard Bleed from Within much?
Yep.
I just discovered those guys like over Christmas. And I was
Yeah.
like, what the fuck is this? Like
Man, I remember one of the bands that made my like absolute jaw drop in the scene today was it was back in September at the Atria, and we booked a show with Pro Sector, and like I had heard a couple of their songs on Spotify, and I was like, oh, these guys are sick, right? But then like when I saw them live, it was like, holy shit. Like they're one of those bands where it was like me and Brady for like our drummer we were just like, this band is like hits you in the chest. Like those guys are heavy as shit.
It's a different when you know it's like when it's like I think that's like a famous Eddie Van Halen saying he's like I need it to hit me in the chest. I need to feel it here.
That was one of the things
Like
when I saw Pro Sector the first time, I was like, okay, like they're all like in sync. They're like dead tight. Like when they have their stop and starts, and it's like they come in off their stops, and it's like an impact in your chest with the sub drop. It was like I remember that. I was like, that is a band that is like wow live.
That's wicked. Yeah, there's nothing quite like just when you have a band that is so tight.
Yeah,
That just like it just hits you all at once. You're like, oh shit.
that's what I love about this scene now is like there's so many bands that are just like-minded musicians that are like the drive to be tight and perform well. It's not just all trying to sound the same anymore like years and years ago. It's like everybody's got their unique sounds that they can work on and do their thing, but everybody's doing it well. Like it's all high caliber musicians in the scene now doing really good things.
Yeah, there's not a band in the scene right now that I've heard that I'm like, oh, those guys are okay. It's always
Yeah,
like, you know, everyone's awesome.
even when we played that Newmarket festival, and it's like every single band, it was like 15 bands on that bill. Like there was Seagrave, Sown, Pillars, The Fractured, Pro Sector. Like there was like a good like 15 bands on that bill, and it was like every single band from like Scuzz was on there. Like every single band from beginning to end was like holy shit. But Geiler played it too. Like it was just like Cruel Intent was on that as well. Like it was like every single band just like had that like holy shit, like this doesn't feel like a $20 show.
Yeah, shouts to the boys in McGuiler. I known those dudes a long time, and like yeah, they were almost like the Harder Show house band for a minute there. I had them on so much at one point, like it was like I gotta take a break from you guys, man. You're on here all the time.
They're really solid live. They're really solid live, actually.
Yeah,
I like them a lot.
Yeah, there's so much wicked talent, man, and it's so cool from the standpoint of someone like myself who just loves to talk with people like yourself who are just like local people who are just making killer music. Like,
yeah,
it's exciting for me because I mean, number one, the fact that I have a list of people that I just haven't gotten to yet, like that's cool. When it's like, you know, there's so much talent that just. Is there any bands locally that you want to play with? It seems like every day
there's a new project coming out where you're just like, whoa, this is sick.
Yeah. There's nothing
cool.
It's
like, it's cool to see where it's not like just like the same like 3 bands playing every show these days.
Yeah.
Like 10, 20 years, like 10, 15 years ago, you were basically seeing the same like 3 bands on every show.
Yeah. Oh, they're playing the Atria again. All right.
Oh,
cool.
They're playing the Atria, and then they're gonna go to Toronto. And when they're in Toronto, the other band that just played Toronto is playing the Atria, and it's like, it was like 3 bands playing every show, and you just had to hope to open. And it was like, it was still a good music scene. It's just, and like the material coming out of it was great, but it was just like, as far as a new act trying to come in, it was difficult back then.
Yeah.
Now you've got so many acts that are like, oh, you've got this band coming through, and you've got this band that you haven't seen in 2-3 months playing, and next show they're not going to be on it. It's going to be a totally different band. Like, you've got such, like, every bill is unique now, and that's what I love seeing.
Yeah, like I said, not just the same 2 or 3 bands playing. There's a lot more going on, which is exciting for a fan too. It's like, you know,
like it, and even as a musician, it's like it's opening the doors for more people to reach a larger audience.
That, which is what everyone should be trying to do.
Everyone's wanting to do, right? Yeah. Like, it's the name of the game.
Exactly, man. I love it. I love the enthusiasm. I love what you guys are doing. You know, I implore everybody to go and pre-save the new single Black Mirror. It's going to be awesome. Go check out the clip of it. As this is coming out, there's still a couple of weeks before it's out, so go listen to it. But Zach, as we wind down here, there's a stable question I always ask everybody, and I'm very excited to hear this answer given your history.
Oh yeah.
Tell me a story about the worst show you ever played and the best show you ever played.
Worst show I ever played,
like comically bad.
Okay, so it was the first time that we played under the band Seagrave, and we were getting pumped up for our first show. We just got a new drummer. We were playing to a click track, and our drummer lost the click halfway through the intro.
Oh no.
And then, like, the third song, the bass is still playing, the band's done. Like, we're like, what's going on? And I just see red, and I throw my guitar off the stage. My vocalist has it on camera, starts bugging me about it for like 3 weeks after, because I'm just like, fuck this.
Well, there's nothing more frustrating, right?
When like, it's just, it was at the Red Dog. The place was packed. It was like a show with like Falsifier. Like,
yo, so it's a Falsifier. That's awesome. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we just completely bombed that one. As far as like best, it would honestly be a big toss-up between that Heavy Lindsay show, or maybe even the show that we did at the beginning of October at Urban, where we filmed our live music video for Redneck Sinatra. And like that show had a lot of people at it. We had like some guy show up in like a hot dog costume, and he was like in the mosh pit. And it was like throwing me off, because I'm trying to be serious on the music video camera. And like dude's running around in a hot dog costume, yelling at people to ask him about his wiener. And I'm trying not to laugh and look serious in the video. And like, oh yeah.
I couldn't have helped it. I would have been like, yo, get that dude on camera. Like,
oh, we got him on camera in the
right,
video.
Yeah, he was in it, wasn't he? Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome, dude. Yeah, I love stuff like that. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys in Urban. I'm looking forward to getting the full, just that bill alone at Urban is going to be ridiculous.
Oh, it's
I'm
going to be a
very much
good
looking
time.
forward to it.
We got a really, really different kind of set plan for that one. It's gonna be a different kind of mood than what people are used to with us.
Especially comparing to the heavy, I almost said Heavy Montreal, Heavy Lindsay show.
Yeah. For those wondering, we are keeping break stuff. Don't worry.
I totally forgot to mention that. Oh my gosh, that was so cool. I was like, was it? Yeah. Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
As a
we
new
are
metal
keeping
kid,
break
like,
stuff.
yeah, that's awesome. It's continuing with the same age too. Obviously, you were probably a new
Right?
metal kid at one point too, so that's awesome.
Oh fuck yeah! I grew up on Limp Bizkit.
Dude, I still listen to Limp Bizkit. What do you mean?
Right?
Like,
I'll be there at the show in July. That's for sure.
that's awesome, man. Well, dude, where can the good people find Pound of Flesh if they want to check you guys out?
Facebook, or our link tree is well, again, attached to our Facebook. You can find us on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, Tidal, anything you use to stream, we're on it.
Awesome. I'll make sure to have a link down below for the link tree there, guys, because saying the link tree is always a huge pain.
Yeah, that link tree will also have the pre-save for Black Mirror in it too.
Nice. Awesome. So click below for that pre-save, guys. Yo, Zach, thanks so much for the time, bro. It's been a pleasure chatting with you.
You as well.
All right, folks, there you have it. My chat with Zachary Emmons from the mighty Pound of Flesh. Thank you very much, Zach, for coming on the show, man. Definitely appreciate it. Appreciate your time and appreciate all of your support. Just like I appreciate your support, you listening. Thank you so very much. It means the world to me. If you would like to continue to support the show, considering following us however you are listening, leave a rating if you can. That definitely helps the show grow. Share this episode with your friends. And if you want, you can also check me out on all the social medias. We have Facebook and Instagram. Hit me up anytime in the email at thehardershow@gmail.com. I also do have a Discord. We have a lot of fun over on the Discord. So if you would like to join, hit me up and come join my gaggle of fun people. We have some great fun over there, and there's a wonderful cast of characters over on the Discord. And if you want to take things a step further to support the Harder Show, consider joining the Harder Show Patreon. That's right, I have a Patreon, and you get access to fun things. There are some changes coming to the Patreon very soon, but right now, you will get access to all 39 episodes of Taped Trepidation, which is my horror narration podcast over there on the Discord, over there on Patreon. You also get exclusive access to unique Discord channels no one else can get into, and also live streams and things of that nature. And if you join at the $1 or more a month tier, you will get a shout out at the end of every single episode of The Harder Show, just like I'm going to do right now for all of my Patreon supporters, my hardheads. We have Roden Komori, also known as Mo, Wolf Delta Pi, also known as Tanner Wood, actor extraordinaire Eric Phones, C.M. Peters, who you may or may not hear next week on the show for something special, Jason Reese from Jaybird Digital Arts, Kelly Sisson, Terry and Janet Hodder, the impromptu creators of The Harder Show, Brandon Bowden from Bowden Voice, former producer of The Harder Show, Neil Skrupa from Neurotic Voice, and last but not least, Mr. Ian Hall. Thank you guys all so much for the support. It means the world to me that you guys would take the time to not only search out the Patreon, but then have a monthly contribution to helping the Harder Show grow. It really means the world to me, and I hope that I can continue to provide that content for you guys that you enjoy. So thank you. And thank you listening right now so very much. It means the world to me that you took the time to listen to this episode and listen this long. So give yourself a round of applause for that and a pat on the back. And I will catch you next time right here on The Harder Show for something very special next week for the 8th year anniversary of The Harder Show on February 4th. So stay tuned for that. And I will catch you guys next time right here on The Harder Show. Take it easy, guys.